Welcome to another episode of Diabetic Foot Files, the number one podcast for limb preservation, diabetic wound care, and innovation that saves lives from the ground up. I'm your host, Dr. G, and today we're going to have something very special. We're going to be speaking to the VP of Product Development for Darco's groundbreaking, innovative shoe called the Darco Pogo shoe that's offloading with intention. And when it comes to diabetic foot ulcers, the single most overlooked yet absolutely essential part isn't just healing or creams or even surgery, it's pressure offloading. And offloading is the cornerstone of diabetic foot ulcer management. And without it, no amount of antibiotics, dressing, or debridement can fully do its job. And why is that? Because every step a patient takes that is on an unprotected ulcerated foot is like ripping off the healing scab over and over again. And that's what I usually tell my patients. And it's trauma and it's microscopic and it's continuous. So that was also helps stall a wound, fuels infection, and silently drives the patient closer to any chances of amputation. And that's why having the right diabetic shoe isn't just an option, it's a life changing decision. And a true diabetic offloading shoe does more than just cover a foot. It redistributes pressure from a wound, protects the insensate areas from breakdown, accommodates deformities, and promotes functional mobility while healing. So it's a treatment in itself, not just medication, but a surgical intervention. So that's why Protocol isn't just a product. It's a purpose-driven movement in diabetic wound care. And we're very honored today to be joined by someone who actually shaped this movement, and that's the Vice President of Product Development for Darco. So we're going to do an interview today with her, and we'll unpack the vision, the design, and the real human stories that gave rise to a shoe like this. And we'd like to welcome Riley Sernica. Hi, Riley.
Hi, Dr. G. Thanks so much for having me today. I appreciate it.
Okay, great. So let's start at the beginning. What was the original vision behind Darco Pogo shoe?
Yes, so Darko has been developing off-the-shelf offloading shoes for many decades, and our MedSurge shoe with Pegasus insole is probably our most popular combination. We've been very successful with that because it's a simple, easy-to-use offloading tool that many clinicians and patients alike enjoy. But one of the biggest, comments that we would get about the shoe is, can they just take the offloading insole and put it in their regular shoe? And the answer was always no, because that insole is about a quarter of an inch thick and there's just not enough room in standard shoes to be able to fit that type of insole. And so it was that continuous customer request that made us realize we need to find a way of how we can take a similar offloading insole to what we use in our more standard technology and find a way to update it from a fashion perspective to allow patients to have that same type of offloading insole technology, but in a shoe that is more in line with their personal style.
Okay, wow. I do have another question. When did Pogo come about, like the vision of it?
The vision has been in place for the past few years, I would say maybe 5 or so. And we're really excited that this year in April 2025, we were able to finally launch the product. It took many years of development, not only of the insole, but also the manufacturing processes around it to figure out how to reimagine shoe technology and shoe construction to be able to make it feasible to have an insole of this thickness inside a shoe that looks like a standard athletic shoe that you would see every day on the street.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Because they let me try it. It feels amazing. Okay. Next question. So, how does Pogo differentiate itself from other offloading or diabetic care footwear on the market?
Right. So a lot of diabetic shoes on the market really focus on having a wide width, having extra depth in the shoe, as well as having a seamless inside. I think those are kind of the key hallmarks of a diabetic shoe. But really, the insoles provided aren't necessarily focused on providing any direct therapeutic benefit, particularly to wound care patients or those who have recently healed from a wound. And that is really the big point of distinction for our product. Our shoe was designed from the insole out right? The insole was the most important part and the part we considered first, and then everything else came after that. So we're really excited to have something that is truly bringing a new twist to the standard diabetic shoe by really having the insole be the driver for the shoe design.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. So, was there ever a patient story or a clinical case that deeply influenced how you approach the design of the shoe?
Yes, there's many. I think one of my favorite ones is that, like we're saying, that the Pogo came about for a need to marry fashion with function when
Mhm.
it comes to diabetic and wound care shoes. And when we think about fashion, we think more about personal style choices of what do I like to wear that makes me feel good or what matches my outfit. But we were talking to a lot of patients, and there's one in particular that really have a big need to have certain design footwear to go to work. There was a particular diabetic patient who had Charcot foot and works in the construction industry and had to wear specific type of closed toe footwear to be able to participate in his job. And he's wearing these work boots that are extremely, extremely painful for him, but it's what he has to wear in order to meet the requirements of his workplace. And that was when we realized, the Pogo designs that we're making, it isn't just about pure fashion and pure aesthetics. There is also a functional purpose to having shoes that are styled appropriately for work. So whether that's uniform compliance, maybe you work in a job where you have to have all black footwear to meet your workplace requirements, or maybe you have OSHA standards that you need to meet for safety concerns for those people that work in factories or manufacturing type settings. And it was really talking to customers and realizing that the need for fashion driven diabetic shoes isn't purely a matter of, personal preference and taste. A lot of times there is this workplace requirement driving that. And it puts patients in a really interesting spot of, do I do what my doctor says and wear the diabetic shoe, or do I do what my boss says and wear the shoe that's required to do my job? And it's a choice no one would ever want to have to make, and nor should anyone have to. And I think that those types of stories really are motivating in the design process to realize that we're not just doing this for a fashion play, that there's a bigger need here for return to workwear. And so that's really interesting and helped us to, design our current version of the shoe, but is really going to inspire us in future iterations down the road.
Oh, wow. I wasn't expecting that answer because that's quite impressive because honestly, yeah, that is one of the biggest things that becomes with non-compliance with patients when they have to go back to work. So I wasn't expecting that, and that is such an amazing aspect of it to tell patients, yes, you can wear this at work. So thank you for doing that. Like, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. It was interesting for us to learn as well because we weren't thinking about it. And that's just why it's so important to talk to patients directly in the product development process to make sure that their needs are really being captured.
Oh, wow. Thank you. So, are there any materials or design features that are specifically chosen to enhance wound healing?
Yeah, so our Air Core insole, which is what is featured in every Pogo shoe, is 13 millimeters thick of a specialized high rebound foam that provides superior cushioning and shock absorption, and also continues to hold its shape after long-term use. So it's every offloading shoe is good on day one, but it's day 100 where things start getting interesting after the patient has worn it a long time, has maybe been doing high degree of activities. A lot of times we'll see kind of the foams and other materials used in offloading start to degrade or compress over time. And so it was really, really important design requirement for our shoe to ensure that the materials we chose for that insole are going to last, so that the offloading capabilities are just as strong on day 100, or maybe even after the first year of use, just as they are on the first day, because this ensures healing's maintained throughout the use of the shoe, and also is being economically conscious for the patient, making sure that they're not having to replace their shoes every few weeks or months, which can be the case sometimes in some of these patients trying to heal and recover from diabetic wounds. So longevity was a really, really important design requirement when thinking about insole construction of this product.
Wow. So I do have a quick side question. When it comes to longevity, because I mean, I haven't seen it worn out as yet for me. How long does it? Because it says built for extended wear.
Yeah, so in some of the patients that we've tested it on internally, we've seen these shoes hold up for 6 months to a year. And kind of to your point, this can be based on a lot of different factors, such as how many steps is the patient taking, what type of activity level, what is the BMI of the patient. So all of those different factors can affect longevity and wear rates, kind of like tires on a car. It just depends on how much you drive and use your car, how long those tires will last. And the same is true for the insoles. But in some of the internal testing we've done, we've seen really successful long-term use of these insoles. And we hope as this shoe continues to get out on the market, we'll be able to do more third-party research initiatives to really lock in those wear rates and be able to really define how long these shoes can last with research to back that up.
Okay. Wow. I just wanted to speak just from my personal experience. I know that I have like extreme flat foot and I'm on my feet a lot. That's why I'm not a really big shoe girl. But I noticed everybody's able to see the wear and tear of their shoe or the shear forces just after a while. And my pogo shoe is still like pristine. Like no, I take out this insole just to look at it to see if it's even wearing down at the bottom, and it doesn't. So it's quite
Awesome.
impressive.
Awesome. It's wonderful.
Okay, another question. Are there plans to expand the Pogo line, like possibly different stages of ulceration or different occasions that the shoe can be worn for? And like there's diva patients. That would be great if there's the insoles for the high heels girls. I know that.
Yes, there's definitely is plans to expand the Pogo line. I think I was kind of alluding to earlier about the different workplace requirements that people have. So looking to expand the product line to cover all of those different OSHA requirements or workplace requirements that people might have, but also branching out into other type of fashion situations, whether it's dressier occasions, office wear, more casual wear, in-home wear, wanting to expand the styles that way. And then in terms of different stages of ulceration, we are actively looking at different research projects to see how the design may need to be edited to be able to help with offloading wounds of higher Wagner grades. And then outside of wound care, we're also really curious as to what some other indications of use could be for this shoe, whether it's as a non-surgical solution for people with bunions or hammer toes, plantar fasciitis, those people with Charcot foot, or maybe even post-surgical healing solution, because the high comfort and high cushion of the shoe is designed for diabetics, which you could say is the riskiest foot condition out there. But because we're designing it for the riskiest, most complex case, the logic could be that it would be suitable for other types of foot conditions and foot pain situations that people might come across. So we're really excited about the potential for this shoe, and we're really just getting started.
Okay. Wow. And then one of the last questions, what does the perfect diabetic shoe of the future look like in your mind? And what does it feel like to wear?
In my mind, the perfect diabetic shoe is just a shoe. And I would love for us to get away from having to specify the term diabetic shoe and really just focus on making a shoe that's good for feet, for all of our feet, yours and mine and your patients and everyone we come across, because we all have issues with pressure and foot pain, right? I know I wear my pogos after I go for runs and I start to notice blisters being formed on my feet. And I think that we're more alike than different than that. I guess the difference between a diabetic patient and non-diabetics is the sensory perception, the ability to feel pain. And so we hope in the future that the Pogo shoe line becomes something that can be universally worn by diabetics and not diabetics alike. We've already started to see that a little bit. I think one of my favorite stories is we got a customer review from a patient wearing Pogos, and he said he was so excited to get them for his diabetic needs. And he was also really pleased to see that his nurse was wearing them in the
Oh.
office. And the nurse said, "These shoes are good for me and I recommend them for you." And that patient, you could tell in the review, just felt very excited to be able to get to wear what his nurse was wearing and not feeling like he had to go into a separate class of footwear because of his medical conditions. And hopefully, as R&D efforts progress, the future of diabetic footwear is that it's just a shoe that's good for everyone. And I think that will go a long way in being more inclusive, creating patient compliance, and not making people feel like their footwear is defined by their medical condition.
Wow, that's an amazing answer, Riley, because that is the problem. A lot of patients feel like they're being singled out when we tell them, like, you have to wear this shoe, or they're like, oh, that shoe is ugly, things like that. So thank you for actually having that vision for the diabetic patients and thinking about the psychological aspect of having a diabetic ulcer for the patients.
Thank, of course, thank you.
And last but not least, this is the last question. What do you want your legacy to be in the world of limb preservation and diabetic foot care?
Darko wants to be known as offering the highest quality products at the most accessible price points to be able to empower patients and their clinicians to be successful in diabetic wound healing. We're really a patient first, podiatrist first company, and we always have been. And we hope to continue that legacy for many more decades to come.
Uh, Thank you so much, Riley. We really appreciate you coming on here and being our first ever guest. So thank you so much. And this episode reminds me of why we do what we do. Behind every product that truly makes a difference, there's a story, there's a science, there's a compassion, and there's a relentless innovation. I know Molly said that there are going to be more research in the future, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And so would we expect to see a new maybe change within a year or two?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And I do have another question. So I do love the insole like everybody else. I do love the insole. And I was wondering, I asked Molly already, is there a feasible possibility of people being able to just buy the insole? Because I
To
feel
put
like,
into their
yeah, just to put it in,
level.
yeah. Because if you could buy the insole by itself and like put it in, I don't know, a different shoe or something like that. Is that a feasible possibility in the future? I don't know because it
Perhaps
fits
in
so
the
well.
future. Today the challenge is thickness. A lot of the reason why the insole works so well is because of it's 13 millimeters thick, where a standard insole in a shoe is probably 3 millimeters. On the high end, it's 6 millimeters. So we're even doubling what we consider to be a thick insole today. So I think over time, with material science research and improvement in that, you can start to reduce the thickness and hopefully keep the same healing properties. But for now, our research has determined the best way to go about this is with the dimensions that we have now. But we appreciate that feedback, and it's something we can strive to in the future.
Okay. Well, thank you to our guest from Darko for sharing not just the specs, but actually the soul behind the Pogo shoe. And remember to our listeners, use our Foot Files 25 for 25% off the Pogo shoe at darcodirect.com. And if you're serious about wound healing, limb preservation, and prevention, it's time to take a step literally to the future with Pogo by Darko. So I'm just going to say it. Engineered from the insole out, it's the only athletic offloading sneaker featuring air core insoles, 3 times thicker than the standardized insoles, need targeted relief. Pogo removable peg system allows for custom offloading zone to reduce pressure where it's needed. There's a perfect It's perfect for diabetic foot ulcer prevention and wound closure, blisters, hot spots, and more. Built for extended wear, Pogo keeps you moving comfortably. Okay. Oh, I do have a quick question. I
Yeah.
thought it came with instructions, but do you think y'all would make a video instruction for patients when they get the Pogo shoe so they can know? Sometimes patients won't make an appointment with their podiatrist to remove the pegs properly. And I was wondering if there would be a possible instructional video for patients to be able to find on YouTube to be able to know how to remove the peg for a certain, like, oh, I usually develop a callus here, things like that.
Sure, we can certainly develop instructional videos like that. Thanks for the feedback.
Yeah, because I had a patient who got it and they did not know how to remove the pegs. That's the only reason why. I was like, okay, let me do it. But
It definitely is our recommendation that pogos are used under the supervision of a clinician. So I'm glad that your patient did come to you with the questions that they have, because that is our hope and intention. But we'll be sure to also think about how to create video files, because we know that those are very powerful ways to communicate instructions.
okay. Well, thank you so much, Riley. I really appreciate it. And this is Diabetic.
So I definitely think that that's a smart direction for the future of the show.